Today we're driving a 2023 Mazda MX-5 Miata. This is a Grand Touring trim and it's painted in the new color for the 23 model year, which is Zircon Sand Metallic. Let's hop outside and take a look at that. It's Miata week here on the channel. Just yesterday we were out at Grattan Raceway driving an ND1 that had been modified for the track. These are such great little cars. We've driven a bunch of them over the last few years, covering pretty much every year of the ND generation, from the ND1, the ND2. As many of you know, my mom owns an ND1, a 2017 BBS Brembo RF, and it's a fantastic little car. You kind of can't go wrong with any of these new Miatas. They're a little bit small, they're a little bit tight, but they're lightweight. They actually have some decent straight line performance now, especially with the upgraded engine after 2019. And they're just fun little cars. You can do whatever with them. You can have them as weekend toys. You can kind of take little weekend trips in them, daily drive them around town, or take them out to the track and throw a few modifications, and they've just become some of the best driver's cars that you can buy. So let's walk you around this one real quick today. We'll take it for a drive and we'll talk about how I feel about the new ND Miata after it's been out for quite a while. We're probably approaching the release of the NE here at some point, and that's going to be hybrid, mild hybrid, electrified at some capacity. So yeah, maybe the last all ICE Miata. A little bit of trunk space back here. It's pretty deep. Got a decent opening. What do you guys think about the Zircon Sand Metallic color? Kind of an interesting color on a Miata. Looks like it belongs on like a 4Runner or a off-road SUV, but it's kind of neat. I love how Mazda carries the exterior color into the interior trim here on the door panel. Nice looking seats in the Grand Touring trim. Not a ton of bolstering, and they do sit a little bit higher, but I'm 5'10" and I'm perfectly comfortable in here. We do get the Bose sound system and a cloth top. The fastest folding top in the business. Let's show you guys what that looks like real quick. That's it. Down. And if you want to put it back up, that's it. But for today's purposes, we're probably going to leave this down for most of the video. Mazda has made little updates and changes to the Miata over the years. They added Apple CarPlay in either 2020 or 2021, and they haven't really changed the infotainment or anything in here too much. It's pretty much original to how it was when it came out in 2016. A lot of newer Mazdas have that sleeker, sexier UI and screen, but the Miata hasn't quite inherited that. It's fine, it works. Traction control off button, lane departure warning in this. We're going to turn that off. And we've got heated seats in the Grand Touring. Grand Touring comes in at $33 grand MSRP with destination a little over $34,000. Miata starts around $28,000, and you can go out and get an ND1 for low to mid 20s. Still a really good buy no matter what you want. 2-liter 4-cylinder revs to 7,500 RPM, makes 181 horsepower, 151 pound-feet of torque, and this is made into a 6-speed manual. You got to go for the manual. I've got to admit, I actually haven't driven an automatic ND, so I've only driven 6-speed manuals, and it's the transmission to go for. It's just a great gearbox. You get about 37 miles to the gallon in these on the highway. They are really efficient. You can be just driving this flat out all day, and you'll get the best fuel economy at the track day. Yesterday, while all of us were running out of gas, the Miata was still going strong after having done probably twice as many sessions as the rest of us. All right, let's hop in. We'll take this for a drive and talk about what the Miata's like in the current landscape of sports cars. So, many of you know, I have a BRZ. We just bought a Honda S2000 from 2001. This Miata is kind of about as close as it gets to a modern S2000. The revs, the power to weight, the handling, the chassis. In stock form, these Miatas are a little bit twitchy, a little bit more challenging to drive, which is kind of nice. But you put a good set of coilovers on here, and it really buttons and smooths out the dynamics. Yesterday I was driving this ND1 on a set of Öhlins coilovers. It was just mind-blowing how well controlled it was. Sway bars front and rear, you can do a few modifications to these cars, and they just absolutely transform into the best handling cars on sale. Super responsive engine, loves to rev, awesome throttle response, and the 6-speed manual, great throw, just snick between gears. It's a lovely little thing. I still love this car. We've driven a few modified Miatas recently, and the biggest transformation with this car is just with a nice axle back or cat back exhaust. These ND2s are a little bit quiet from the factory, and I think they could use just a little bit more personality from the exhaust, but luckily that's a quick, easy, and affordable aftermarket purchase. And it really it does make these cars so much more fun to drive, to be able to hear that 2-liter 4-cylinder. It's funny, Miatas have always kind of sounded about the same over the years, and it's really nice that you can still get that kind of raw, visceral, really potent 4-cylinder sound out of these cars with just a bit of exhaust work. The best part about the Miata is the top-down driving experience. It's just so involved, so much fun. It loves to rotate, and it loves to rev. It's so light, and it feels it. You can just balance the chassis beautifully on and off throttle. Even wind buffeting's not terrible at highway speeds. You do get a little bit of a wind screen back here. We've got just regular old-fashioned cruise control. Works great, easy on off. A few buttons on the steering wheel, but they're set inboard a little bit so they don't get in the way. Yeah, I just wish I could hear this car. We've said just about everything there is to say about these Miatas over the years. Complaints, it's just a little bit tight in here. You want to make sure you fit before you get one, but I've seen some taller drivers squeeze into these no problem. You can always get an aftermarket bucket racing seat, and if you're doing track work, that's actually not a bad idea for extra support. Blind spot monitoring is a little bit overly sensitive. Infotainment's nothing special. Oh, sound system's okay, but really this car is about fun and the driving experience, and it delivers so well on both. And I just love how this new car revs, drives, and feels. Again, a bit dull from the factory, but a couple tasteful mods, exhaust, maybe some suspension tuning, and you have just one of the most fun cars you can buy, all for around 30,000 bucks. Let's put the top back up. Easy as that. Also, at this point, with the ND having been out since 2016, this is probably one of the most reliable cars on sale. And the BRZ and the Miata were always top picks for Consumer Reports. The previous gen BRZ. New gen BRZ, GR86, I don't know, the jury's kind of out on how that car is going to be doing reliability-wise. We're seeing some engine issues on track with that car. But that's not something you have to worry about with these Miatas. They are really dialed in. Mazda's figured out all the gearbox issues with this car. It's just, you can just send it every day and enjoy it, not really have to worry about hustling this thing around. It is worry-free motoring at its best. And it's pretty cheap to run. You're not going to be going through consumables like you will in heavier, higher performance cars. It's so lightweight, brakes will last, tires will last. 205, 45 R17s on this Miata. You can go much wider, but a great tire that's really well matched with the chassis in stock form. And these cars don't need a lot to be track worthy, which is awesome. Pretty much just brake pads, upgraded fluid, and if you want to go wheels, tires, suspension, go for it, but it's not really necessary. The BBS Brembo package is a really nice option. Those brakes are fantastic. All you need, again, pads and fluid, and you're ready to go all day out on track. Engine stays cool, no overheating issues here. I mean, these Miatas are just such great little performance cars. And they're comfortable enough to drive a few hours to the racetrack. As long as you don't go overboard with spring rates or exhaust loudness. It's just a car that you want to keep driving, and as something to kind of hustle around locally, city, if you have canyons near you, or the weekend autocross track day. I mean, there's really no better option. If you have another car to do practical things, to be your daily, this is the perfect fun car. It's really hard to argue with the formula that Mazda has stuck with over the years with the Miata. I remember back in January, we were out in Los Angeles filming a bunch of cars one day, and we were out in the canyons, a bunch of private cars. We had an FDRX7, we had an NSX, we had a GT3, we had all these amazing vehicles. But the first car we drove was a modified ND Miata, and that kind of set the tone for the day. It's like, is all this excessive supercar speed and power necessary to have fun? No, we had just as much fun in that Miata in the canyons as we did in anything else. The stock brakes are quite good. With the top up, sounds pretty good in here. This not being the RF, it's actually got decent levels of NVH. A bit more insulation to this top than we had in previous generations, and there's this kind of solid piece right here which reduces wind buffeting. Suspension's a little bit firmer, a little bit busy, but it's not punishing. This Grand Touring spec is kind of a nice way to go. It's reasonably priced. You still get the limited slip diff, which is just kind of the most important option in my mind. You got heated seats, nicely appointed interior. What do you guys think? Top back down while we wait for traffic? Can we beat the traffic with a top? Yes, we can. And windows down. And we're off. It's just fun. That's all I have to say about the Miata. Go get one before they electrify it, make it heavy. I'm sure it'll be faster. I'm sure it'll be pretty good. Mazda won't mess it up, but this is a pure driving experience in 2023, and it's hard to get that these days. This car's kind of quick too. I'm gonna say it's no longer slow car fast. You kind of have to watch your speed in this thing now. There's still torque down low. It's a nice balance. No rev hang. I just want to keep driving this thing. That last 500 RPM is pretty wild in this car. You just get into such a nice rhythm with a car like this. You really do feel connected. All that Junba Thai sounds like marketing lingo, but Mazda's onto something. Country. Smells like horses, smells like farms. Something that doesn't come through on camera, but you get all the experiences in a Miata. A car like this just awakens the senses, puts you in a good mood. I've never seen anyone crying in a Miata, unless if it got crashed or something, but that's the only time. The rest of the time, they're just smiling, got the silly grin on their face. All right, guys, we'll wrap things up here, walk you around this car one more time, show you that Zircon sand metallic color. Cool looking car. A lot of dirt, a lot of dust. last year I filmed a video, BRZ versus S2000 versus Miata. If you haven't already, go check that video out. But basically, to sum everything up, this car, better chassis than the S2000 and probably BRZ. S2000 has the most exciting engine. BRZ is kind of probably the best all-rounder if you just need one car that can kind of do it all. The new BRZ G86 kind of matches or maybe even exceeds the performance here, especially in a straight line, and around corners it's pretty darn good too. So you kind of have to think about what you want, what you're looking for. The top-down driving experience, the convertible, the lightweight feel here is really hard to beat with the BRZ G86. I think if you're doing track work, this is probably the way to go, but otherwise, the BRZ could be a really nice practical proposition and fill in some gaps, whereas maybe this isn't as comfortable of a car to drive on a daily basis, doesn't have a lot of space in it. The G86 BRZ fills that in. I think if your focus is driving fun and thrills, this car is really hard to beat. I find myself very often just going out for a drive in Miatas that we get just for the heck of it, just for the fun of it. And I don't necessarily find myself doing that in the BRZ as often. And I think part of that is the fact that you can take the roof off. This is a convertible. And the rest of that is this car is just so much fun to drive. You want to really go out and drive it and make excuses to just take an hour or two in the evening at sunset, go for a drive in this thing, go for a little rip. And I think that really speaks to its level of enjoyment, level of fun behind the wheel. And there are really not a lot of cars that I feel like I go out and do that with just for the heck of it. So, always been a big fan of the Miata. Mazda's done something special here with the ND. There's a couple things I wish they would improve. Wish the steering was a little bit better. But ultimately, it still delivers the fun experience that we've always had from the Miata for the last 30 plus years. So, yeah, pretty cool. If you want a new Miata Zircon Sand Metallic, they offer it now. So that's nice.